Hello, good morning, everyone, and welcome to A Healthier Tomorrow. I'm your host, Sierra Owens. We are missing my right-hand man, partner in crime, Mr. Will Rucker, but as always, we are grateful that you are spending part of your day with us as we talk about issues impacting the health and well-being of our Southern Nevada community. Before we jump into today's conversation, I want to take a moment to acknowledge that May is both Mental Health Awareness Month and Women's Health Awareness Month. Mental health impacts every single one of us, yet so many people still suffer in silence. According to the national data, 1 in 5 adults experiences a mental health condition each year, and many individuals still face barriers to care, stigma, or a lack of access to support. Mental Health Awareness Month reminds us that prioritizing our emotional and mental well-being is just as important as taking care of our physical health. May is also Women's Health Month, which encourages women and girls to prioritize preventative care, routine screenings, physical activity, nutrition, and overall wellness. Women often carry so much of their families, workplaces, and communities that they place themselves last. Ladies, this month is a reminder that Women's Health Month matters, and taking care of yourself is not selfish, it is necessary. So tell your mama, your sister, your auntie, your friends, or one of your girlfriends, or your loved ones to please go take care of themselves. So y'all, the Healthier Tomorrow radio program is sponsored by the Office of Chronic Disease Prevention and Health Promotion at the Southern Nevada Health District. We are proud to launch the Walking Together Diabetes Prevention Program. This free online program will help you make simple changes that can lower your risk from developing type 2 diabetes. Explore 4 modules focused on key health areas and complete them at your own pace. This course is also available in Spanish. To get started, visit gethealthyclarkcounty.org. All right, y'all, we have a show today that is extremely important and it's very relevant to me because, y'all, I got mosquito bites up and down my leg, and I know full well that y'all I'm not the only one. Today we're talking about something that many people may not think immediately applies to us in Southern Nevada: mosquitoes. I was just in an Uber on Saturday, and the Uber driver said, "We don't have mosquitoes here." I'm like, "Yo, I've lived here since 2004, and yes, we do, especially the last few years." Now, in the desert, we think that this is not something that we have, but yes, mosquitoes are absolutely a public health concern here in Las Vegas and across Clark County. From West Nile virus to invasive mosquito species, understanding mosquito surveillance and how to protect ourselves matter now more than ever. So today, we have 2 incredible guests who are helping us lead this work in our community. So we have Vivek and Dr. Louisa. Do you mind introducing yourself and telling us who you are, what you do, and why are you here?
Yes, Sierra, and everybody listening, thank you for having us on. So my name is Vivek, and I supervise an environmental health program with the health district that looks at mosquitoes around the valley. Our team trap mosquitoes at people's homes, at wash channels, golf courses, all around the community. We want to find out what kind of mosquitoes do we have, and then we work with our public health lab to get them tested for diseases like West Nile, as you mentioned, and then we educate the public about prevention.
Oh, this is so necessary, I'm telling y'all. Dr. Louisa.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for having us. I'm Dr. Louisa Messenger. I'm one of the assistant professors at the UNLV School of Public Health, and there we run the mosquito lab. We work really closely with Vivek and his team at SNHD to support some of the mosquito surveillance efforts and really to fill in some of the knowledge gaps to kind of better understand what's going on with the mosquitoes in the valley.
I thank y'all so much for being here, not just on the behalf of the show, but on behalf of myself. When I tell y'all I've been struggling, and I'm just like, where did they come from? What's happening? What occurred? And I had no idea we were doing this work at UNLV or even with the health department, so we appreciate all that y'all do. So let's start with the basics. Why are mosquitoes such a common concern for a public health perspective, especially here in Southern Nevada?
So I like to start by reminding everybody that statistically mosquitoes are the most dangerous animals on the planet. Right?
Say that one more time. Say that one more time.
Mosquitoes are the most dangerous animal on the planet, right? You'd think sharks, bears, lions. No, it's mosquitoes. They kill close to 1 million people all across the globe every single year, and that's probably an underestimation. So when I say they're not just a pesky nuisance, they are also really serious when it comes to transmitting diseases, some of which are fatal and some of which are going to leave you with nasty chronic conditions. And we have some of those species here in Las Vegas. That's why we are so concerned.
Let me tell you, a lot of people associate mosquitoes with that humid climate, not the desert. People say that's one of the greatest things about living in Vegas. Oh, there's no mosquitoes and there's no this, no that. So can you help us understand why mosquitoes are an issue in Las Vegas and what conditions allow them to breed?
For sure. So mosquitoes are very small, and they live in little microclimates that are a lot different than what people need. So, for example, small pockets of humidity, like bushes, mosquitoes can really rest in when it's 115 degrees and do just fine. And so what we've created kind of in our urban environment is a lot of little pockets for mosquitoes to breed, because they all need standing water, and then to live, basically. And so then what they can do is find food sources, which are either people or birds or other animals in the community, and then reproduce that way. So
mosquitoes affect birds as well?
Oh, for sure. In fact, West Nile virus, which is one of the greatest vector-borne or mosquito-borne diseases we have here in southern Nevada, is actually a disease of the birds. And so mosquitoes will bite infected birds, pick up the virus, and then pass it on to either other birds or people.
I think I've learned so much today, y'all. I'm telling y'all. If y'all haven't tuned in, tell somebody else to tune in as well, because we need to share this information. And when we think about mosquitoes, what exactly are they feeding on? So you're saying, like, people or other birds, and what attracts them in our neighborhoods and communities? You're saying, like, the bushes and places for them to hide. But give me some more specifics.
So female mosquitoes are the ones that bite because they need blood to then get protein to develop eggs. And male mosquitoes actually feed on plant nectars and other things that aren't blood. So it's the females that bite. So that's why we always have to really worry about the biting mosquitoes that can transmit those viruses.
All right. So when we think about, you talked about small pockets of water. Is that like thinking about like our pools, our fountains, the things that we love to make our gardens and our yards look so beautiful? Or were we thinking like the sprinkler systems or different things of that nature?
So it's really all of it, all of the above. And we've seen it change over the course of 20 years of doing this program, depending on the kinds of mosquitoes. And we've seen new mosquitoes actually come and colonize our valley in the last 5-6 years that all require different kinds of breeding sources. So people can think about large water sources like swimming pools. People leave their homes, they abandon their pools, they become green and swampy within a matter of a few weeks. Those are awesome breeding grounds for mosquitoes that like to actually can fly up to almost half a mile. So I always call those illegal mosquito breeders with intent to distribute, because what's happening is that people are letting their pools get nasty, and then the mosquitoes go all over the place. So we have those kinds of mosquitoes, and if you do see a green swimming pool, it's important that you call code enforcement. They're the folks that have the authority to actually drain the pool or work with the homeowner to get it fixed. But then we also have a new kind of mosquito that likes very small breeding sources. And these mosquitoes are well adapted to living in the junk that we have in our yards or communities. For example, abandoned tires that may fill up with a little bit of rainwater when storms come through, or flower pots and the little saucers that gather a little bit of water. Those mosquitoes really do well in those types of breeding sources.
These mosquitoes you're speaking of, are these no-see-ums that was like hitting the news last year? Is that something? That's not something different. Don't tell me that's something different.
No, that's something different.
Oh no!
So no-see-ums are kind of half the size, if not a third of the size of a normal mosquito. Those are biting midges that we tend to get here sometimes. But really, to talk about the invasive species mosquito that we've got here, it's called Aedes aegypti, and she's a very aggressive day-biting mosquito. She's black and white and stripy, so quite spectacular to look at, but very, very persistent. So if you're being bitten during the daytime in Las Vegas, it's highly likely that it's that species. And that's what's really driving this conversation, or the perception in the community that mosquitoes are suddenly an issue. Mosquitoes have been here really the whole time, but it's this species that is now kind of exploding across the valley, essentially kind of running unchecked, that's really aggressively biting people in the daytime, and most people respond quite badly. Like, people react quite badly, itchy, welts, kind of infected bites. The reason that we're so concerned is not just because she's a nasty biter, but because she's the vector that can spread dengue, Zika virus, yellow fever, or chikungunya. We don't have any of those diseases here yet in Las Vegas, but once you've got the mosquito in the environment, it's only a matter of time.
So those are the mosquito-borne illnesses that we're most worried about coming to Clark County, or are there other things?
Well, we still have endemic West Nile virus that we have almost on a yearly basis, human cases, and certainly infected mosquitoes in the environment. That's the one that's been here since 2004, and that's really why Southern Nevada Health District started doing mosquito surveillance. That one we tend to not ignore largely, and we shouldn't, because if it becomes neuroinvasive, that's a nasty disease that can be fatal, and it affects our most vulnerable members of society, so people who are older or maybe immunocompromised. But really, we're just concerned that we have this new species in the environment, and it just takes one of us to bring a pathogen off the airplane from some other part of the world to establish transmission here. I think that's something we all learned during the pandemic, right? We are a global world, and Vegas, it couldn't be possibly more global as a city itself. That's one of the best features of our town, but that has consequences when it comes to mosquitoes.
Well, especially with 40 million visitors every year, a lot of which come from places these diseases are endemic, like South and Central America, Caribbean, Africa. And so, like Louisa said, it just takes one person who has this virus for a mosquito to bite, then pick it up, and then pass it on.
All right, so Dr. Lisa mentioned, like, the reason why the Southern Nevada Health District and UNLV is doing the work that we're doing is because of how aggressive things are. Do you mind walking us through some of the things that you all are doing for mosquito surveillance and monitoring inside of our community?
Yeah, so the health district, we have a team of 6 field staff, so not a large team considering how big the valley is, and then we have 1 admin assistant. So basically it's this team that funnel mosquito complaints. So for example, if you notice you're getting bit at your home, you give us a call or file a complaint.
I will be doing so after this call.
Right? Because ultimately that's what we want to know, is what's happening in the neighborhoods and in the communities. And so we just set overnight traps, and what we want to get an idea of is what kind of mosquitoes are there, how many, and then what the disease status is. And so we set thousands of these traps every year. Last year we set almost 3,000 mosquito traps overnight and tested over 50,000 mosquitoes. And last year we did not find a lot of West Nile, but Sierra, the important thing to know is the year before, in 2024, we had 26 human cases of West Nile. And as Dr. Lisa mentioned, it can affect the nervous system, and so for some people it can have devastating impacts. So the only thing really predictable about West Nile is that it's unpredictable. We don't know if we're going to have a heavy year or a casual year, and so we always just preach prevention because it starts in your own backyard.
Literally, y'all, if y'all don't take anything else, it takes one from this message and start in our own backyard. When we think about this, what can we do as residents to protect ourselves and reduce the mosquito breeding around our homes?
So I guess we like to think of prevention as a kind of tiered approach. So what can you do as the individual, what can you do as the household, and then what can you do as the community? And we all need to be participating. In public health, it really is community action. On a personal level, if you're outside and you are at risk of being bitten, wear long sleeves, wear topical insect repellent that contains some kind of insecticide that is either EPA or CDC approved. People don't like that answer. People want to, eat more garlic or use cinnamon. And, to a certain extent, they may have some activity against mosquitoes, but really it's the gold standard insecticides like DEET, citronella, picaridin, IL-35, It's over-the-counter stuff. It is tried and tested, and then just follow the label advice. So maybe you're applying it to you and your kids every 4, 6, 8 hours, depending on the recommendation. There's a reason that we have those kind of databases of evidence for insecticides. But then at the household level, it's reducing your standing water. And as Vivek mentioned, that could be very obvious in your swimming pool, but it could be as insidious as a bottle cap under a bush with a couple of millimeters of water. That's sufficient for the particularly invasive species to breed in. So sometimes it's really difficult for people to do environmental management. Think about things like your bowls of water for your animals, your bird baths, fountains, any of those type of water features. Because of our artificial water use in the valley, we sort of build the mosquitoes into our habitat.
Yes.
But then what can we do as a community? Well, we can try to abate mosquitoes. And that's one of the ongoing conversations we're having is there a need for more coordinated mosquito abatement here in Clark County? Are we at the tipping point? The mosquitoes are really out of control and are becoming a significant problem.
I know this isn't one of our official talking points, but someone came over to my house because I was talking to them about how bad the mosquitoes are in my condo, and they said, "Do you know that the city is talking about releasing ladybugs to combat mosquitoes? Is that real? Was that real?"
I think they did release them, and they will eat a certain proportion of mosquitoes, but that's not, there is no silver bullet, I should say, for mosquito control. There's no one universal strategy. It's a multi-pronged and integrated approach. So yeah, you can use, for example, bat boxes. There's a great way that people like to encourage biodiversity by putting artificial homes for bats, because they'll eat insects as well. Some of those will be mosquitoes, but they won't eat all of the mosquitoes. So yeah, unfortunately we have to rely on the biological and then the conventional chemical routes as well.
Okay, because when she said this, I looked at it and I was like, is that real? And I was like, oh, we'll have to see. And then you all came, so I thank you for answering that question. If we notice excessive mosquitoes in our neighborhood, what should we do and who should we contact?
So I would say first and foremost is look around your backyard. Look for some of those breeding sources that Lisa spoke about. Talk to your neighbors, because they may not know that they have a fountain that is green, or a swimming pool or water feature or something. So talk to your community first and foremost. I think that's really critical, is that we know, first of all, our neighbors. I mean, we're a community, right? But then we do have a service where we'll set traps overnight. It's no charge to the community. We don't give traps away, but we just set them and then we collect them the next day. And so, like, we've had almost 400 complaints last year that come in from community members about mosquito activity. And that really helps us sometimes pinpoint problems, because if it's near a park or a wash channel, or we notice a green swimming pool, we work with our jurisdictional counterparts to refer the problem to them, because they can then hopefully use some of their legal ability to fix it. Or if it's like an irrigation box at a park, then the Parks and Rec folks can go manage their infrastructure. So that really helps. So, please let us know. We can set traps and get an idea from there.
All right, thank you. So, as Lisa mentioned, mosquito abatement. What does that mean, and can you tell me whether there's a community interest in order to coordinate this?
So conventionally, all across the contiguous U.S., there's plenty of places where mosquitoes have historically been a really significant problem. And it's usually not actually disease transmission like West Nile virus, is actually biting nuisance. So if you live in parts of Florida, very tropical, very humid, you get eaten alive by saltwater mosquitoes during the summer, to the extent that you have these coordinated abatement districts. In terms of the legality and the structure, they look a little bit different depending on the place, but basically they are mandated to do some level of coordinated vector control over a given geographical area. That may be a voting constituency, it could be several neighboring counties. It just depends on where you are. But the kind of bottom line is then, during the peak mosquito season, which is usually spring, summer, and for us into fall as well, they will go out and they will do a combination of different things. They're mainly trying to abate the density of mosquitoes, and they may do this using several different methods. It could be things like environmental management, like draining swamp waters or catch basins. It could be treating with insecticides that either target the adult flying mosquito or the larvae when they're breeding in water. It could also be a combination of both. Some places do that with helicopters, some with single wing planes, or even drones nowadays. Some places also do biological control, like releasing genetically modified mosquitoes, like sterile males. And whenever we say that, people immediately go, no, zombie mosquitoes, we don't want that in our community. But some of those are actually very efficient at abating especially small pockets or populations of mosquitoes that you just want to decimate. And that's usually in response to disease outbreaks. If you've suddenly got a massive spike in dengue in Miami-Dade, Florida, you need to go out and do something about it really quite quickly. And then there's also the community engagement and the education that Vivek's already talked about. So, the abatement districts can do only so much based on their funding mechanism, their budget, but then it's also what the community can do to support those efforts and to raise awareness to protect yourself from mosquito-borne diseases.
And that's the challenge, is the health district does not do mosquito control. So I can tell you, Sarah, we found 30 mosquitoes at your house and are positive for West Nile. Take precautions against breeding and biting and, protect yourself from it. But when it comes to actually, does the health district come out and spray, for example, to kill the mosquitoes? We do not. And because it's actually a very expensive program, and it needs to be sustainably done. You don't want to just spray and pray in that sense. You want to make sure that what you're doing is correct for the situation. And so, as Lisa mentioned, it does take funding. It's very expensive, and you want to make sure that it's done with the right approach and across all jurisdictions. Because here we have 6. We have Henderson, City of Las Vegas, North Las Vegas, unincorporated, on and on. And so you want to make sure that if you're doing that it's the right approach and consistent approach across the entire community.
All right. So when you think about that right approach, as mentioned, nationally, there's a lot of resistance against like pesticide or the worry about pesticide resistance. Is that something Southern Nevada is monitoring as well?
So we actually have a project jointly with Southern Nevada Health District to do exactly that, to look at, in our mosquito populations here in the valley, are they already resistant to some of the common chemicals that we can use for public health? I'm sure you can appreciate that actually to be able to use chemicals in and around our houses, they have to be stringently tested. It takes decades of data to get approval. So essentially the arsenal or the complement of chemicals that we have is not that great. It's kind of like antibiotic resistance, right? If you continue to overuse a particular insecticide, eventually your population of mosquitoes will begin to evolve resistance to it. And mosquitoes essentially are going to breed every 2 to 3 weeks. So every 2 to 3 weeks there's potential for mutations to happen. So we don't want to overuse what we have. And unfortunately, we already have resistance to some of the common classes of insecticide that we use here in the valley. And that probably reflects their use on private property, like golf courses, and by private pest management. The key point that Vivek's already made is the coordination. So if we already know what type of chemicals we can and can't use in the valley, we can't just be operating independently of one another, right? Because sometimes we'll be spraying something that's going to work, sometimes we'll be overusing something such that the next year is going to be rendered inefficient or essentially unworkable. We do already have pre-existing resistance to some. We do have some, though, susceptibility to other chemicals, so there are options. But what we need to be is more coordinated and intentional with our insecticide use. We certainly don't want to hurt like the pollinators, the birds, the bees, anything like that. So that's something that abatement districts pay special attention to, is also their environmental impact assessments. So it's not just that we're trying to do a kind of silent spring DDT and just blanket. No. But of course you have that resistance. Are these chemicals safe for my kids, for my animals? That is also taken into careful consideration. It's one of the most effective things that we can do, but then we also need that kind of integrated approach. So what can we also do in the environment to manage it? Can we use biological things like mosquito fish as well? There's other options, but it has to be integrated and coordinated.
The work that y'all are doing are so important and is so crucial, and one that, once again, I didn't even realize was happening. So thank you all so much for this. Before we close out our official portion of our show today, where can listeners go to learn more about mosquito prevention, mosquito-borne illnesses, and the work being done locally?
So there's a lot of online resources. The Health District, we have a page that's specific to mosquito surveillance that talks about the different diseases that we discussed today, prevention tips, how to report if you're noticing problems, a whole host of those factors. Also, the CDC website is pretty tremendous with resources too, and of course UNLV.
You're making me realize I need to update our website. But the Mosquito Lab has a website where we try to disseminate our data and our findings, because a lot of it's also led by our students as well. So a lot of our students get our masters, PhDs, and they're leading these activities. So we will update that so Clark County knows what's going on.
I love this. The Healthier Tomorrow radio program is brought to you by the Office of Chronic Disease Prevention and Health Promotion at the Southern Nevada Health District. The Move Your Way initiative kicks off in May. We work with partners to provide free entry at community pools throughout the summer. This is a great opportunity for families to cool off from the summer heat and enjoy physical activity in the pool. To find Move Your Way events, visit gethealthyclarkcounty.org. All right, y'all, I'm going to say this. This has been extremely informative, and I appreciate you both so much for helping me and our listeners better understand how mosquito surveillance correctly and connects directly to our public health and community safety. So I'm going to ask a personal question real quick. What makes you do the work that you do?
So I always like to joke that I am a terrible medical entomologist. That's my training, because most medical entomologists love insects. They love ecology, biodiversity. They're fascinated with the natural world. I hate insects. I hate mosquitoes. I hate all of them. And I think that's what makes me uniquely qualified for my job, that I'm really good at finding new and inventive ways to get rid of them or kill them.
It's true. Mosquitoes are any swarmy insects that bite or sting is my phobia. So it's kind of funny that I'm in this industry. But, for me, with the Peace Corps started 20-odd years ago, seeing kids affected by malaria and how it really impacted communities. And like Louisa mentioned, mosquito-borne disease is a huge problem globally. And so when I came to Las Vegas, it was just an opportunity to work in a mosquito surveillance program. It was fascinating to me, and it's been a great career working with mosquitoes.
I love it, the why behind it. And y'all, before you both say, like, actually, I really don't enjoy this, but this is the reason why. It really brings me a lot of joy. Thank y'all so much for sharing. All right, Vegas, there's so many things happening in our community. We have our Secret Garden Kiki Ball that's hosted by the Center. There's going to be on June 13th from 6 to 10 p.m. There's going to be over $2,500 in cash prizes. So reach out to the Center to get your tickets and your table now. Some categories: Best Nails, Hair Affair, Kiki Labels, Best Dress, The Virgin Runway, Face Runway, and more. Also, y'all, the 2026 5th Annual Las Vegas Men's Health and Wellness Conference is happening at the historic 5th Street School on Saturday, June 13th from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. It is free. It is going to be an opportunity for you all to be able to create a space for fellowship, networking, and meaningful conversations surrounding men's health and wellness. The conference experience will continue with a day dedicated specifically to the men, creating space for honest conversation, fellowship, support, and resources that center their physical, mental, emotional, financial, social, and spiritual well-being. Through expert speakers, interactive workshops, community resources, and conversations, this gathering continues the mission of promoting awareness, prevention, care, and overall wellness for men across the Las Vegas Valley. And lastly, the Oasis Health Expo 2025 tour will be visiting Las Vegas on Saturday, June 6th and Sunday, June 7th. This is happening at the Meadows Mall. They're expecting over 5,000 people. You can go between 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. daily, and there are still limited spots available if anyone would like to participate. You are able to indulge in a variety of activities that will really bring up your senses. Participants are encouraged to participate in yoga, workout classes, as well as meditating workshops. Unwind in the relaxation zone, where you can experience the benefits of massage therapy and other wellness treatments. All right, y'all, we have a caller on the line. Go ahead. We have about 3 minutes.
Okay, real quick. So I made my man cave made my garage into my man cave.
Yes, sir.
And man, I got bit up pretty bad over the weekend. Like 5 different spots. My wife got 0, so I don't get it. How she didn't get none and I got 5. But my question what is the best medicine, or what is the best thing to put on a mosquito bite to keep it from itching or to make it go away?
Yes, we need that answer. What do y'all say?
Well, before we get to the solution, I'll briefly explain why you got bitten, but your wife didn't. So it's really down to how we smell, how good we smell to a mosquito. And so mosquitoes are attracted to the carbon dioxide in our breath, but then also the chemicals and microbes on our skin. So we get asked the question all the time, what if I, wash my hands with a particular type of soap, or I use a different body lotion? And really what we're doing is just some of us smell a little bit nicer and more attractive to a mosquito. And it's how we smell to one another, right? But if you're using perfumes or lotions or any kind of things, you're just essentially modifying how you are smelling to a mosquito, and sometimes that's for the better and sometimes that's for the worse. So you should take it as a compliment that you're
he can't go home and tell his wife that. He can't tell his wife that at home.
Right. No, I can't tell her that, because she smells much better than I do.
Yeah, clearly.
Oh, and so regarding, how to handle the mosquito bite and the itch, first is that don't scratch it as hard as it is, because you might, introduce a bacteria that's on your skin into your wound that can then become what we call a secondary infection. So as hard as it is, really try not to scratch. Over the counters like Benadryl, topicals that really help kind of reduce itching is probably the best way to go. Of course, avoiding the bites in the first place is the most important thing, but it's real difficult. You don't want to really put on repellent when you're about to hang out in your man cave. But that might be something to think about doing is just to kind of cover up if they become a real problem, is to use some of those repellents that Louisa mentioned about, because that's the challenge, is that these mosquitoes, you might be hanging out in your backyard on a barbecue on a Sunday afternoon and you're going to start getting bit by these mosquitoes, and nobody wants that. So, yeah, prevention is really the key.
Well, thank you very much, and thanks for getting me in real quick.
Of course, thank you for that question. That was one I was going to ask as well. So thank you. All right, y'all. We truly want to thank you both so much for joining us and giving us something that is truly so important. Like I said, it's top of mind to me. I'm like our man that just called. I have about 5 on my leg, and it is not fun. So we also want to thank our listeners for tuning into A Health and Air tomorrow. Until next time, continue taking care of yourselves and each other. My name is Sierra Owens, and you make it a great day.